From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer.
From the moment President Trump took office, he signaled a major shift in American foreign policy. The president says he wants to acquire Greenland for national security reasons. He signed an executive order to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which other nations have no obligation to follow. He wants to retake operational control of the Panama Canal and is sending Secretary of State Marco Rubio there likely next month, which is expected to be his first overseas trip as top U.S. envoy. And leading up to the inauguration, he suggested annexing Canada using, quote, economic force. Clayton Allen joins us now. He's the U.S. director for the Eurasia Group. Clayton, thanks for being here. What do you make of President Trump's expansionist agenda, and how does this play with American allies?
Well, first, thank you for having me. Second, this is an interesting move from Trump. It's putting us back into the sort of great power model of U.S. influence in foreign policy. And I think U.S. allies are responding to that. They're trying to figure out exactly where there's solid ground. How far does Trump's preference for this manifest destiny 2.0 approach to the U.S. interaction with the rest of the world actually go? Some of these on their face are kind of unbelievable. Annexing Canada doesn't seem like a realistic option. Acquiring Greenland, maybe there's a pathway to that. It's hard to differentiate between these things. And I think that's leading to a lot of confusion and apprehension among U.S. allies.
Manifest Destiny 2.0, interesting you put it that way. Could we see countries begin to rethink their relationship with the U.S.?
Absolutely. I think that this is very much, the U.S. focusing on exerting its power rather than finding friends. And that's going to lead to a change in the way that other countries react to the U.S. Now, for Trump, that may be partially by design. Trump certainly wants to approach interactions, whether diplomatic, economic, or military, from a more bilateral position where the U.S. is trying to leverage its strength. Other countries, I think, now begin to see that as the dominant way to interact with the U.S. It's less about part of becoming the same club, and maybe it's more about what you can specifically offer Trump to give him what he wants.
Earlier this month, we covered the Eurasia Group's list of global risks for 2025. The number one concern was a global leadership vacuum. Does President Trump's foreign policy stances make it difficult for the U.S. to assume that role as global leader? Does he want to assume that role if he's withdrawing the U.S. from the WHO and the Paris Climate Agreement, says things like it's their war when it comes to the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas?
I think it's less a case of the U.S. not wanting to assume that role and more a case of the U.S. being willing to, in some ways, exit the role. The U.S. is effectively the global hegemon in many different aspects and regards, and Trump taking a less interactive role, whether it's in diplomacy, climate change, economic management, that all kind of pulls the U.S. back. It creates that vacuum. It creates the space that we were really highlighting in our top risk for this year.
Again, can you just highlight, a lot of people have been saying when there's a vacuum, that means that other actors who we don't want calling the shots could call the shots. Am I correctly summarizing that concern?
I think that's exactly right. A vacuum, nature abhors a vacuum. And there's a lot of other countries that would love to fill it. China, Russia, though Russia is significantly constrained in its ability to do that through the impact of sanctions and other things. There's also the question of countries that we don't necessarily not want to play a larger role, but that we maybe don't know that we're fully in alignment with playing a larger role simply by default. Again, nature abhors a vacuum. The countries that fill it might be a coalition of countries from the unallied nations in the BRICS or others. And we're not sure what that looks like and what that means for U.S. influence and position over the longer term.
Clayton Allen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.